3:42 a.m. One man missing. No alarms, no struggle, no broken locks. Just gone. And for 11 years, nobody could find him. This is the story of Carlos Roberto, a man with a quiet voice, dead eyes, and a plan so simple, it worked. You've probably never heard of Carlos Roberto, and that's exactly how he wanted it. No Netflix docuseries, no tabloid drama, just a faded name and a dusty case file, and a trail of lies stretching from Texas all the way to Guatemala. But to understand why a 31-year-old man vanished from a maximum security wing without a fight or a weapon, you have to go back. Way back. Before the jumpsuit, before the bars, before the blood. Carlos Roberto was born in 1968 in Brownsville, a border town so close to Mexico you could hear the radios change language as you drove through the streets. His father, Miguel, was a mechanic. His mother, Elena, worked nights cleaning at a nursing home. They were tired, decent people, poor but proud. Carlos was their only son. But even as a boy, Carlos wasn't like the other kids. He never smiled in pictures, rarely spoke at school. Teachers said he was polite, code for empty. By 15, he was skipping class and riding across the border into Matamoros, running petty errands for local gang members, delivering packages, no questions asked. Then one night, two men turned up dead in a cheap motel south of the bridge. And Carlos? He vanished for 9 days. When he came back, he had a different look in his eyes. Harder, still no words. But from that point forward, people learned something. You don't mess with Carlos Roberto, because he never, ever forgets. Carlos had been living under the radar for years, using fake names, working odd jobs, floating through Texas like a shadow. But in September of 1998, he made a mistake. A drug deal went sideways behind an auto shop in Laredo. 2 bodies were found hours later, shot execution style. It wasn't sloppy, but a camera across the street caught a blurry shot of a man walking away from the scene. His build, his gait, it matched Carlos. When the feds raided a trailer park 12 hours later, they found Carlos sitting on a mattress, shirtless, unarmed, watching a tiny TV with the volume all the way down. He didn't run, didn't speak. He just stood up and held out his wrists. Charged with 2 counts of murder, interstate drug trafficking, and possession of illegal firearms, Carlos was remanded to Webb County Jail awaiting federal trial. He never said a word in court. His public defender did all the talking. Carlos just stared at the judge like he was watching water drip from a faucet. Carlos was placed in solitary for the first 30 days, standard for high-risk pretrial inmates. After that, he was moved to Unit C, Block 4, a wing reserved for violent offenders awaiting sentencing. Now here's the thing. Most inmates yell, curse, fight. Carlos, he was quiet. The guards liked him. He followed orders, didn't talk back, never got into fights. Some thought he was reformed. Others thought he was planning something. And they were right. Early March 1999, inside Webb County Jail, cell C-417, the escape plan didn't start with a fight. It didn't start with a shank or a riot. It started with a mop. Carlos volunteered for cleaning duty. Every Thursday at 4:30 a.m. before breakfast, he'd sweep the corridor outside the cells. He did it for 3 weeks. No complaints, no noise. The guards liked it. Less work for them. And over time, he became invisible. Just another quiet pair of hands with a broom. But Carlos wasn't cleaning. He was watching. Watching how the locks clicked, which guards smoked in the hall, who took long bathroom breaks, where the blind spots were in the security cameras. And most importantly, which screws didn't check behind the mop closet door. Carlos didn't use a spoon, didn't dig through concrete, didn't bribe anyone. He used cardboard, glue, a small mirror, and a stolen uniform patch from the laundry room. He crafted a replica of the guard's shoulder badge using soap and toothpaste, just enough to fool someone at a distance. Then, during one of his early morning shifts, he tucked a borrowed guard's shirt into a cleaning cart and wheeled it back to his cell. For 3 nights, he practiced the walk, the posture, the speed. He even mirrored the way a certain guard, Officer Ramos, held his radio when he walked. Carlos wasn't rushing, he was rehearsing. April 2nd, 1999, the night of the escape. It was Good Friday. The guards were half asleep. Half of them were fasting. The rest were watching the basketball game on the tiny break room TV. Carlos waited until 3:28 a.m. He got into the cleaning uniform, walked past 2 cells, down 1 hallway, past the janitor's closet. Then he stepped into the blind spot between 2 broken security cameras, an angle he had memorized over weeks. He pulled the badge over his shoulder, grabbed the mop handle like a baton, and walked straight toward the east stairwell. No one stopped him. The last time Carlos Roberto was seen was on grainy footage, pushing a cart toward the loading dock. Then, a shadow in the corner. A figure ducks past the gate. The camera glitches for 2 seconds, and he's gone. The loading dock door had been broken for months. No one thought to fix it. Carlos thought otherwise. When Officer Vega arrived to relieve the night crew, something felt off. Roll call was 2 names short. Carlos Roberto and inmate Luis Ortega, his cellmate, but Luis was still in bed, dead asleep. When they woke him, he looked confused. He held up Carlos's orange jumpsuit and said one word. "He told me to stay quiet." Warden Halford stared at the screen, replayed the footage 4 times. He rubbed his forehead and said quietly, "He dressed like one of ours," and just walked out. And with that, Carlos Roberto officially became a ghost. A federal manhunt was launched within the hour, but by then, Carlos was already 300 miles away. Posters went up, interstate alerts, even a spot on America's Most Wanted. But every lead went cold. He was too careful, too patient, too quiet. One tip came from a trucker in Arizona, another from a farmer in New Mexico, but none panned out. Years passed. Carlos's file moved to a cold case drawer. His face faded from bulletin boards. New crimes, new faces. But for some, the name never went away. Agent Mark Caffrey had seen a lot. He chased cartel smugglers, bank robbers, even a priest who ran guns from Juarez to Dallas. No violence, no bribery, no inside help, just clean, surgical. Caffrey told reporters, "He walked out like a ghost in the fog. By the time we knew he was missing, he was already gone." They issued a level 4 federal escapee alert. That meant border coordination. All points bulletin, interagency sweep, but it didn't matter. Carlos had no digital footprint, no bank account, no phone, no car in his name. All they had was a blurry image and an alias they couldn't confirm. A woman named Teresa Mendez called the tip line, said she saw someone who looked like Carlos working at a mechanic shop, but when agents arrived, the man was gone, left his tools, didn't even pick up his last paycheck. Inside the locker, 1 t-shirt, 1 paperback Bible, a receipt for a bus ticket to Los Angeles. They were 3 hours behind. Carlos didn't hide underground. He blended in. At one point, he worked as a dishwasher at a small diner in Barstow, California, under the name Mario Gutierrez. Another time, as a janitor in Nevada, as Jose Angel Morales. Every 6 months, he moved, never stayed long. No friends, no attachments, no mistakes. He was a phantom with a mop and a plan. An old man renting out a room said a quiet Mexican man lived there, paid in cash, never had visitors, only read the newspaper and fixed radios. He left one morning before sunrise and never came back. Inside the drawer, an old photo of Brownsville, a small notebook, a sketch of the Webb County Jail layout, in pencil. A customs officer flagged a man with forged documents. He looked similar to Carlos, same build, same age, but the man had a beard, different teeth, and spoke fluent Guatemalan Spanish. Fingerprint scan came up, nothing. They let him go. 1 week later, an off-duty guard swore he saw Carlos boarding a cargo truck headed toward Guatemala, but by the time the truck was searched, it was empty. A private investigator, hired by a victim's family, claimed to spot Carlos in a market in Zona 1, Guatemala City. He followed him for 3 blocks, watched him buy fruit, talked to no one. Then Carlos turned into an alley. By the time the PI reached it, it was empty. Only the echoes of footsteps. The case was quietly archived. No body, no arrest, no confession. Carlos Roberto officially became one of the longest-running unsolved escape cases in Texas history. Some say he died crossing a border river. Others believe he joined a cartel in Honduras. One rumor says he became a monk in the hills of Chiapas. But most agree on one thing. He planned every detail. He waited, and when the moment came, he disappeared into the silence. Carlos Roberto didn't vanish in the night. He vanished in plain sight, with no guns, no violence, just patience and a plan. And to this day, no one knows where he is. Maybe he's watching this now. Maybe he's still sweeping floors somewhere, invisible. Carlos Roberto didn't vanish in the night. He vanished in plain sight, with no guns, no violence, just patience and a plan. And to this day, no one knows where he is. Maybe he's watching this now. Maybe he's still sweeping floors somewhere, invisible.